Okay, we are here to talk to three experts. I'm Catherine Watson. I'll be the host today, and I'm going to be asking questions of these three experts on how to stay healthy to stay at home. So this is the number one thing that most people tell me that they want. And I know myself as I'm aging, I want to make sure that I do everything I can to stay healthy and vibrant and be able to live independently in my own home. That's the goal. So we're going to bring on some experts to talk about that. And I'm just going to kind of go around the room, everybody. I want to give you probably about 2 to 3 minutes. Just tell us who you are, a little bit about maybe your background, how you got into doing what you do and what it is you do. And also tell us, because most of the people watching this are in the greater Houston area. We want to know what area of town that you cover so that if they're looking and they want to connect with you, they know whether you're in their area. And if you're not in their area, I'm sorry for you because these are great people, but there are other people maybe in your area. They may even be able to help you connect with somebody that does a similar type service in your area. Okay, so we're going to start on my right with Jake. So Jake Trione, if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, first, thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Darian, for having us. I think this is a wonderful thing, and the more that we can get it out, especially to our senior population, it's definitely going to help. And so my name is Jake Trione, and I'm a co-owner and founder of Tri Fitness Gym, and we're a gym that focuses on fitness for individuals 50 plus. I've been working on this about 10 years, and more or less, it's just kind of my passion. I really kind of started off in the military, and I spent a lot of time working with military members to help them to move better and kind of build healthier lifestyles and take a overall healthier approach to their day-to-day lives. And I started working in civilian industry while I was on active duty. And eventually I had to make a decision. And after 13 and a half years of serving, I kind of decided to leave the Coast Guard and go full into providing fitness and wellness services for all of my clients who were 50 plus. And I really had to take that choice of, if my clients didn't have me, what would happen? And a lot of them may not be still active and may not still be moving. They may be in wheelchairs, or even worse, not even on earth with us anymore, but the Coast Guard could replace me. And so I transitioned to the reserves in 2017. I started Tri Fitness Gym out of my 240 square foot garage. And after a year, I grew it into where we are today, more or less. We've been here 2.5 years. Fighting through COVID, obviously, was obviously a challenge for everybody. We're no different. We're a gym, and we're an in-person gym mainly. So it kind of was a little bit of a battle, but yeah, we're a gym in Clear Lake that focuses on the 50 plus population. I'm a functional aging specialist. I'm a master fitness trainer. Have probably 20, 30,000 hours at this point on the floor working with individuals. And it's really just something I love to do. And I truly believe God called me to it. So I'm excited again, Catherine. I really appreciate all the opportunities that you have given me to support and really help out the community. And I'm excited to be a part of this panel, and thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Jake. And I'm excited to have you on this panel because I think a lot of people don't understand what that means, a functional fitness expert. So we're going to get into that. Okay, I'm going to go down one below on my screen from Jake, and that would be Asheva. Asheva Phillips. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. That was good, Jake. I love the thing about God calling you to it as your mission, because I feel the same way, like pulled to serve this community. So I'm Asheva Phillips. I'm with Vaughn, Gage Adult Wellness Center. We're an adult day center located in the Jersey Village Sci-Fair area. So as Catherine, as you mentioned, there are a group of people who want to age in place. They want to stay in the home. So we're the only freestanding adult day center in Sci-Fair, Jersey Village area. We provide the caregiver respite. So they're able to drop their loved one off at our facility and get 8 hours of care, both medical and social, and get a break that they need. And then the senior is able to also get a break and share energy with others. I started with Senior Citizens Bureau. 2011, Senior Citizens Bureau gave funding for Vaughn Gage Adult Day Center because there was nothing else available. You know, we had people calling us saying, I don't want to do 24-hour care. Where can I take my mother? Where can I take my husband? And so I went to my board in 2011, and they gave funding to open this wonderful facility. It is a quaint facility. It's a smaller facility. We do specialize in Alzheimer's, dementia, TBI, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis. We deal with mostly cognitive impairments and some physical impairments. So I love it. I'm called to it. Can't let it go, like Jake said. Yeah.
Good, because we need you. In fact, there was a conversation earlier. I don't know if you were on the conference at that time, but there were several people that were talking about the need for more adult daycare centers, and trying to find one was a challenge. So I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to our last panelist, and that is Miss Shonah Jefferson with Chefs for Seniors. So Shauna, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm glad to be here today. I am the executive chef and owner of Chefs for Seniors North Houston. And what we do is we enable seniors to maintain their independence and improve their quality of life by providing them with healthy chef-prepared meals prepared in the comfort of their homes. So our mission is to improve seniors' lives through food. We have been in business since November of 2018, so it'll be 3 years in November. We are a national franchise. I am currently the only franchise owner in the Houston area. So while my territory is North Houston, meaning Kingwood, Atascocita, Humble, Porter, the Woodlands, Conroe, Montgomery, Magnolia, I do have clients interspersed throughout the city, north, south, east, and west. If I have enough of a demand in a particular area of town, so usually if I can get 3 or 4 clients in a particular area of town, then I can hire a chef to service that area of town, assuming that there is not another franchise that has that area. So right now, I currently have clients, of course, in my territory, but also Memorial, Sugarland, Pearland, Hobby Airport, Jersey Village, Cypress. So I'm scattered all around. I currently have 7 chefs who work for me. So I also service clients as well. I have a handful of clients who have been with me since the very beginning, and they're like family to me. They're my surrogate parents and grandparents. And so I continue to service them because they've been with me from the start. And so at Chefs for Seniors, we provide the in-home personal chef service. Everything is customized to the client's dietary needs and restrictions. And I came about this because this is actually my 3rd career. I started off in corporate America, and then from there went to law school and was a practicing lawyer for many years. I actually still am a practicing lawyer, but law is now my side gig as opposed to my main gig. I grew up in the restaurant industry, and this was something, going to culinary school was always on my bucket list. And so I actually went into business with my dad to help him manage his restaurant for a few years, and went to culinary school while doing that, and knew I didn't want to run a restaurant. I found out about Chefs for Seniors actually back in 2015, and they weren't even franchising yet, and I was still in culinary school. And I finished culinary school in 2017 and found out Chefs for Seniors was franchising a year later, and filled out an application, and the rest is history. And so I love doing what I do. Like Asheva and Jake, I view this as a ministry, something that I've been called to do. And I really care about seniors and the people that I serve.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's get into some questions. I want to start with Jake. Jake, tell us exactly what is a functional fitness expert? What do you do? How is that done?
So functional fitness, and we'll kind of describe kind of the difference between what people are aware of and what they kind of can relate to. So a typical gym, you have just some machines, you have some cardio equipment, and you go in, you sit down on your machine and you do your moves, or you get on the cardio equipment and you walk for 5 to 10 minutes. And we do have some equipment and we do have some cardio equipment, but functional fitness is supposed to enhance the way you move in your daily life. So what we do is we teach people how to move better with biomechanics, and we break it down in a personal level. And we have individuals who are everything from cancer survivors to knee replacements, hip replacements, arthritis, TBI, Alzheimer's. I've even trained inside Alzheimer's facilities, all of the above. And we personalize in small groups. We only have 8 people at a time inside our facility, and we have a 4-to-1 client to coach ratio. So we basically break down in a personal training environment biomechanics for individuals to teach them how to move better every single day. And we use everything from balance, coordination, reaction time, speed, power, strength. And then we finish with high intensity intervals. I've actually systemized the way I do things. So I've trained 4 other coaches inside my facility. And our ultimate goal in the long run is to either franchise or license what we do for other individuals to do it. There's really not anybody in a structured way in the United States that's doing it like we are, that we've seen so far with biomechanics and not using machines and things. So it's kind of our ultimate goal to hopefully bring this to many more communities, because it truly is the easiest and the most efficient way to improve activities of daily living for individuals, whether they have limitations or not.
And, Jake, that's so important, because a lot of seniors shy away from the gym because they've hurt themselves maybe in the past because they weren't doing something right, or because they have had an injury, or they have a physical limitation of some sort, or maybe they have a cognitive limitation. All of these different things keep people away from doing the one thing that really is going to help keep them more independent. So that's amazing. That's great. Asheva, let's talk about socialization. Studies have shown over and over and over again how important it is. We are social animals, and we've got to get out there and be social, right? And what I see happen a lot of times is people get holed up in their house. And especially this year after COVID, so many people, were forced to be holed up in their house and not have those social connections. Some of them did get at least a little bit of connection online with Zoom calls and things like that. And that's great. It's not quite the same as in person. We all know that. But talk to us about why it's so important and how an adult day center can really help somebody keep those cognitive functions a little bit longer.
Definitely. So social interaction is critical for mental health. When we bring our seniors in, as I mentioned, they already have some cognitive impairments, but our goal is to slow down the cognitive decline. We do group activities and sometimes individual activities based on the diagnosis, but it gives them a sense of purpose. When they're in the program, we're helping them to recollect memories. And a lot of times our caregivers say, I've seen some memory improvement. As we know, there's no cure for Alzheimer's, that type of thing, but they've said like he remembered his day or she remembered what she ate, and they find hope in that. And so that's a part of what we're giving them is you're not in this battle alone. You do not have to make the decision to put your loved one in a 24-hour facility most times. I mean, there are times when it's required. We do understand that. But if there's a way for us to kind of hold their hand through the process, socialize them, stimulate them, help them to share energy, create joyous moments, and that's what our goal is. And it is a transitional thing. We're in the continuum of care. So we do know that at some point they will have to sometimes transition into 24-hour facilities or go back into the home. There are 7 stages into Alzheimer's. We go up to stage 5. And then at that point, usually our staff is not trained and capable of going, once they get to hospice and that type of thing. But, it's like exercise for the brain. It's stimulating the brain. It keeps the mind busy. And that's the goal. We don't want them sitting at home or in a facility and steadily declining because they're not sharing even energy. I had mentioned earlier to one of my colleagues, we have a client that has aphasia, which is a type of dementia, and he can't speak well, but you can see that the interaction and just the sharing of energy makes a difference in his day. And so he's smiling, and we know that we're engaging him and stimulating him. So that's our goal.
Great, great. And Shauna, diet is so important. We all, we hear all the studies, we've got to eat a healthy diet, but I'm turning 65 this year, and I've gotten to the point where I don't like to cook as much as I used to. And I used to love to cook, but it's just not as much fun. I don't want to spend all day in the kitchen. When I want to cook, I want to cook, but when I don't want to cook, I don't want to cook. So your service can make sure that seniors, especially seniors that are aging maybe alone. My sister is a widow. She's by herself. She used to love to cook as well, but she's 80 now. She's tired of cooking, and especially for one person. So talk to us about how your service helps people and why it's important to get the right diet for each individual, because everybody's different, right?
Yeah. So the statement "we are what we eat" is definitely true, and it's especially true for seniors. A lot of seniors are malnourished. A lot of seniors, as they age, their taste buds change. Food doesn't taste the way it used to, and so for a lot of them, they basically kind of stop eating, or they eat what tastes good to them, and in most cases, that's sweets, because our sweet taste buds are the last ones to change, if at all. So they just tend to eat what tastes good and what makes them feel good, but that's not always what's best for them. So the great thing about our service is that we can customize our meals to the seniors, not only their dietary restrictions, but also to their taste buds. So on an initial consultation, I'll go in and talk to the senior. I have a 6-page food inventory where I ask them questions about all different kinds of foods, how much they like them, how much they dislike them, how they like their pasta cooked, how they like their vegetables cooked, how they like their meat cooked. So we really become their personal chefs, and we prepare the dishes the way they like them. They get to choose their meals if they want to. So that's another great thing. They still have control over what they eat. They just don't have to worry about preparing it. I have some clients who trust the chef to choose and select the meals for them because they trust their chef, and they believe that their chef is they know that their chef is going to prepare meals that they like. Speaking of single seniors, our service is great for them, because I've spoken with so many seniors who are widows or widowers, and either more likely, if they are a widow, they just aren't used to or really don't now know how to cook, for one. And if they're widowers, some of them never learned to cook. I have a client who's almost 90 years old, and his wife passed away almost 3 years ago. She shooed him out of the kitchen for the 60 plus years that they were married. And so when she passed away, he knew how to basically heat up soup and maybe some canned goods on the stove. That's pretty much it. So for him and for his children, our service has been a godsend, because his daughter was going to have to retire from teaching school early just to figure out how to cook for him. And now she's able to continue teaching, and he's happy as a clam.
Okay. All right. So the next thing I want to ask, and I want all three of you to just kind of think about this for a minute. I want you just told us a great story of how you helped someone in particular. I want to hear some stories, because I think when we hear about how someone else was helped, we understand better how we possibly can be helped as well. So if you can just think about a story about somebody that you've worked with in the past, and your service was able to help them, and how it helped them and or maybe their family. So especially in Asheva's case, it may not have only benefited the person receiving the service, but the caregivers as well. So talk to us about that. Who would like to go first? Anybody?
I can go first.
Jake? Okay, great.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I'll relate to is just something that we all just went through was COVID-19, right? And it was a very misunderstood, and there was a lot of different effects that it had on different people, and the outcomes were different for everybody. And we had 3 members that I can think of off the top of my head that went through COVID, and Definitely, it made a massive impact, and three of them that went into the hospital is what I mean, that had to go and actually get treatment for extended periods of time. And so what we see a lot of when people get sick is if they don't have a relationship with health and fitness and a good diet before they get put into the hospital, it's a lot more negative impacts long term. And these individuals that went into the hospital, I believe, may not have been able to come out and get right back to their daily lives if they had not had a relationship with fitness and they had not had enough muscle mass built up, if they had not had enough reserve for their respiratory system, if their heart wasn't stronger, a lower heart rate. These types of things are extremely important because life is going to happen and things are going to come in that you can't control. And the ability to come back from those, that's one of the major things that we see is we call prehab, because life is going to occur. You're going to have falls, whether you're 6 or 60 or 106. You're going to get sick, whether you're 6, 60 or 106. But if you're in better shape, you have more muscle mass, you have a stronger heart, your respiratory system is better. In the long term, you're going to be better. And it's just amazing to see the difference between individuals that had a relationship prior to having COVID and then those that didn't. And it's made a massive difference on the recovery, because we have some members now that are new members that are trying to come back after COVID, and it's been a lot more challenging to get them back to normal.
That is awesome. I hadn't even thought of it in that way, Jake. Thanks for that story. It brings to mind the word resilience. We all need to be more resilient, okay? And exercise, diet, and social interactions all keep us more resilient. They keep our bodies and our minds resilient so that when these things happen, and like you said, life happens, right? Things will happen that we have no control over. You could be driving and get hit tomorrow and have an accident and end up in the hospital. So you don't know what's going to happen. But when you've got a good, healthy core, your body is strong, your mind is stronger, you're going to just be able to weather those storms so much better, right? And bounce
Yeah, a
back.
good support system too. Like Asheva said, if you have a support system that brings in all of that joy and all that interaction, and you meet people like yourself who, not every 70-year-old is the same. And if you see a man next to you who is running and walking and you can't even get out of a chair, that motivates you. Like is like, and when you see one 70-year-old, you see one 70-year-old. You don't see everybody. And we have a tendency in our industry to look at everybody on the same level, and that isn't true. And we're getting better at it. Don't get me wrong, but whenever you see someone who is just like you that you can relate to, and they're pushing and they're driving and they're able to do more, it really does motivate. And I think that's a big thing about the socialization, like Asheva, talked about with the adult daycare, is extremely important, because you need to see that there is possibility, that there are chances. And I think that's what that does. That gives you that hope, and that gives you that understanding that you don't have to be stuck and you don't have to be by yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You're right. One 70-year-old is not the same as another 70-year-old. I know people who are 50 who are older than people who are 90, because in their mind they're older. And it makes such a difference. I'll just tell a quick funny story. Years ago, I was much younger, but had some major health challenges from an illness I had. And we were in the Grand Canyon, and we were going up the Grand Canyon, and it was quite a trek. And there was this older man in front of me. I think I was about 35 to 40, somewhere in there, and he was in his 70s. And there was no way I was going to let that old man beat me, so I kept pushing. And oh man, I kept thinking, gosh, would that old man just stop and sit down for a minute? But it gave me that push. So being around other people, and I love that you have small groups like that, being around other positive people that are pushing forward to get their bodies in better health with whatever health challenges they have, is inspiring. I think that's very, very helpful. Yeah. Asheva, tell us a story. I know you've got a million of them.
Yeah, I'll just give you one. So we had a client, a lot of times when, if you get married, you say till death do us part, you're going to grow old together and you're going to take care of each other. That's the goal. So we had a client who made that commitment, and they also said, I'll never leave your side. I'll never, wherever you are, I'll be as long as I'm capable. they have children, and people assume, oh, well, you have 4 kids. When you get older, they're going to help take care of you. But sometimes your 4 kids have children, which are your grandchildren, and they're in their own, family as well. And so we had a client, the husband and wife. The husband was the caregiver. So the wife needed to come into the center. She had Alzheimer's. She was probably stage 4 out of 7. And the children weren't available to help him. And so he found himself in a position where he had to be the complete caregiver, changing diapers, cutting her food up, feeding her. She wasn't able to speak. And so he brought her into the program. Our nurse assessed her, and we just were like, we have to assist. Like, she wasn't, I mentioned that our staff was there's a certain level where we kind of have to hand off because we can go up to a certain stage, but if they're bedridden or swallow, excessive swallow issues, we can't assist. But we decided as a group that we would really put the strain on the staff in order to hold her as long as possible, because he was struggling. He was in tears when he came in. And so we were able to provide him support for about 3 years, where he could still go home and breathe and pray and rest or whatever he needed to do. We were still able to administer her medication, still keep her socialized, help her with exercises. Her physical therapist came on site. We would cut up her food. Our CNAs would feed her food. We'd log her medication. We'd share the information on her progress or regress with her doctor through EHR, through electronic health records. So we were that medical component, and we were also respite for him. And we're just all hands on deck holding her. She was a fall risk. So I had CNAs that would follow behind her as she was walking. They were committed when she came in. On the day she came, we were kind of assigning extra staff and help to make sure she could make it through the day. But it was so that he wouldn't, I don't know. It was so that he wouldn't become like her. He was starting to stress out. He was starting to have physical impairments, and there weren't people available in his life to assist with the day-to-day. And so we came in and we became that provider and that supporter. And it made me feel proud. And that's why I said it's a mission. It was like a heart thing. It's like, no, we're not really in a position to take care of her, but we're going to get in position to take care of her for as long as we can. So that was something that I'm happy
That's
about.
great. Yay. That's good. That's really good. It's so, the caregivers are so vulnerable. Wouldn't it have been great if we had all 3 of you to help this man? So Shauna could have gone to his house and cooked meals for him and his wife. You could have been taking care of the wife during the day, and Jake could have been helping him get more physically fit and strong, and that's going to help reduce some of his stress as well. What a great combination. So I'm really excited about having all 3 of you here today, because I think there's so much synergy there, and great.
Thank you.
Shauna, do you have another story you want to tell us?
I do. So I have a client. He's married, but his wife was struggling with being able to prepare meals for him because he has a combination of kidney disease and diabetes. And trying to cook for those 2 conditions can be very difficult because they kind of compete with each other as far as what the person can and can't eat. And his wife she had thrown up her hand. So I'd been cooking for them probably for about 2 months. And his wife and his daughter went out of town for the week. And I was scheduled to come and prepare meals for him on Thursday. So that morning, he went out into the backyard to water the plants. So it must have been about 9 or 10 in the morning. This was in July. He tripped and fell over the garden hose, and he could not get up. So he was literally laid out on that patio until I got there at 2 p.m. that day. So I walked into the patio and I see his feet, and I freaked out. I said, oh my gosh. And so I checked on him. He was barely responsive. I called 911, tried to reach his wife, tried to reach his daughter, and eventually got in touch with them. Turns out his son-in-law was still in town. So his son-in-law said that he would meet him at the hospital. So when the paramedics came, because one of the things I do with my clients is I always ask them during intake, I ask them for their birthday. And so they were asking me questions about him, you know, when's his birthday? Well, I had that information, so I could provide that to the paramedics. He and I talked. One of the benefits of our service is also the companionship piece. So he and I just talked the previous week, and he was complaining about having weakness in his legs and having trouble with his legs. So I was able to share that information with the paramedics because I knew where his medication was in the refrigerator. I could go in the refrigerator, share what medications that I knew he was on based on what was in the refrigerator, share what I knew about his diet and his health. Because since I've been cooking for them, we would talk all the time about everything that was going on with him. So he went to the hospital. He did recover. He was in the hospital for about a week. They got his electrolytes back where they needed to be and everything. And he came home, and he and his wife actually gave me a package of lifesavers. And they gave me their, it was called the Lifesaver Award. And I still have that package of lifesavers. And he wrote me the sweetest note. And I'm about 4 months older than his oldest daughter. So he has 2 biological daughters, but I'm his 3rd daughter. And so I'm a part of the family. We've supported each other. When my father died unexpectedly a couple of years ago, they were on the front row at his funeral. And that just really means a lot to me because my clients, they were like my family. They really, really are.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it's obvious all 3 of you are just really heartfelt, caring people that are in this because you have a love for helping other people and especially helping the seniors and their families. So I applaud you for that. We've still got a few minutes. Let me see if there are any questions in the chat before I go on. Somebody's asking Shauna, how much are the meals and all? Shauna is going to be in a private conversation circle after. So if you will, join that circle and ask those kinds of questions there. And I don't think there's any others. It doesn't look like at this time. If you have some particular questions, you can go ahead and put those in the chat if you want to know anything else. Okay, let's go on and do another question, and then I think we'll probably be wrapping this up. So let's see. Jake, tell us how functional aging fitness helps seniors to maintain their ADLs, and just explain for those listening what an ADL is.
So yeah, I mean, even kind of like Shauna just alluded to, our clients are going to sometimes need us more than we even understand. And we're going to be called upon to, you know, be that other family member because we have a lot more data almost than a lot of their children do, even just because of the nature of what we do. Like our health history, we have 6 pages. I'm looking at their medications, how any contraindicatives or anything like that affects, just to hit on that first, just kind of all of us, I think. So we're also advocates. I want to say that. I want to say that we are truly advocates for this, all of our clients and for the aging population, because we see how capable they really are. And we see how exercise and diet and socialization and activities and keeping people engaged can change their lives. So ADLs is really your activities of daily living. And that's, can you get up and down from a toilet? If you fall, can you get up? Can you walk to your car and get in your car and drive? Do you have enough range of motion to see over your shoulder when you're backing up? Do you have the ability to reach over your head? Do you have enough grip strength? Grip strength's being directly related to heart health. You know, we do high intensity intervals because it brings more oxygen to the brain in a shorter period of time. So that makes sure that that brain tissue heals. We work on balance every single session because people don't use their bodies in a way that helps them to maintain balance. Balance is a full body activity. If you have problems with your sinuses and your vestibular, it's going to affect the way that your feet operate. If you have neuropathy, it's going to affect the way that your feet operate. So we have to look at all those things and take them in consideration whenever we put a program together. And that's what we do different at Tribe Fitness. It is designed to make sure that each individual gets a little bit of everything each day. And if they have something specifically we need to work on, we go more towards that. I'm like, I have to go to a session after this. It's even kind of, it was funny, like Asheva said, we call upon more people when we have certain individuals that need our help. And I have an 88-year-old that I go every time she's at the gym because she needs that much help right now. She was really sick for like a month and lost a lot of muscle mass, had atrophy. She's been my client for like 4 years and her family's really close. So I go every time, whether I'm on, duty or not, to be there to train her. And I think that's a big thing, is that we adapt to every individual to improve the way that they experience their life, to keep them from having to go into a nursing home or into a care facility without their own choice. If they want to, that's fine. But if they want to stay independent, we're going to allow them to learn how to use their body more efficient, so their activities of daily living don't become problems and don't become obstacles.
I love that. I love that. That's what everybody wants. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Asheva, so tell us a little bit more about how the adult day programs, we talked a little bit about how they can support the family caregiver, but talk to us about what happens for the person who's attending and how it helps them and makes a difference in their life.
Sure. So when they come in, we do an assessment. So we're looking at their health. We have a dietitian that does an assessment of their, if they have any type of ailments and that type of thing, and setting up a meal plan. We also do an activity assessment. We have a wellness director that puts together a monthly calendar based on our group. And our group is small, like I mentioned. Like the maximum we take is probably 20 people. But the benefit of that is it's more individualized. And we have a holistic approach. And so we're looking at the total person. And rather than that just looking good on paper, we actually can be holistic. Like we'll know, like Jim doesn't like tuna, but Mary does, or this person. We're able to like be an extended family, like we mentioned before. But like I mentioned, we're cognitive stimulation. So we're the social and medical models. There are adult days that are just social models. They go in kind of like a senior center, do knitting, crafts, and that type of thing. But we work with other plug-in services, meaning we do pet therapy with a provider, music therapy. We have a lady that comes over to play music to stimulate. We do aromatherapy. We do light therapy. And a big goal of ours too is to get them vitamin D, not leaving them inside of a facility all day long, not within these four walls. And so we're stimulating them in, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And they love that we're catering to them. We're going to them and looking them in the eye and saying, what can I do to make your day better? What is it that you're needing that you're maybe not getting? Do you want to be in this group activity? Do you need to go into the quiet room? I think in the larger facilities, sometimes it kind of gets lost and it becomes just kind of robotic at times. That's my personal opinion, where you're just going through the day and you're checking off the checklist for each client and you're kind of just rolling them through. Ours is more connected, more bonded, more heartfelt. When the caregivers pick up their loved one, they can see that interaction and that exchange. We're asking them, how was your day? Do you possibly need counseling? Is there something that you need assistance with? We're partners with Jersey Village Parks and Recreation. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do a little fitness class for the people that are 50 plus, which Jake, I think you come in handy with the fitness piece. We definitely have wives and husbands that say, I'm watching my loved one deteriorate in health. I don't want to leave this type of pressure on my children. How can I get in a position where I don't become this type of person or in this position where they're stressed out? So they are looking at, how can I stay more fit? I need to hydrate better. I need to take care of my health better so that I'm not, they consider themselves a burden. They don't want to be that on their loved ones. But yeah, I love our program. We're the only freestanding one. We're not trying to transition them into a 24-hour setting. Our goal is for them to age in place, to get joy, to feel loved, and for us to have made a difference on their journey of life. However long they're with us, we want it to be impactful as they journey forward. So, yeah.
Awesome. Wonderful. Wonderful. Shauna, I'm going to ask you a specific type question. My husband has high blood pressure. I have low blood pressure. How do you cook for families? And I'm just using that as an example, but one person may have diabetes, another person may have something totally different. How do you cook if you're going in and you're helping a couple? How do you cook foods that are going to work for both people? Do you have to cook separate meals or can you cook together?
That's a great question, Catherine. And I'll use it as an example, the couple I mentioned to you where he has kidney disease and diabetes. His wife does not. She just has, she has high cholesterol and high blood pressure. And so what happens with her is sometimes she doesn't get enough potassium because his meals are all low potassium, low phosphorus. She benefits from the low sodium from his meals. And so what I do with her is she loves vegetables. So I will prepare extra vegetables for her on the side, because her other complaint is she doesn't get full enough from his meals, whereas his meals are tightly portion controlled. Her meals don't have to be. So I prepare extra vegetables for her on the side, and I label them Kathy's vegetables. So her husband knows they're not for him, they're for her. I also provide her with advice and counsel on things that she can eat to boost her, to make sure she doesn't suffer from too little potassium. So I tell her, add some beans to some of the meals that I prepare. Bananas are great. And so I give her a list of other things that she can add to her meals to make sure her potassium stays where it's supposed to be. Like I said, the low sodium piece in the meals is great for both of them. So that's the way I balance it with them. With some couples, what they actually end up doing is they use the service for the individual who really has the most dietary restrictions. And then the other spouse actually, especially if they're physically able to fend for themselves, they kind of keep preparing the meals that they like for themselves. And so what ends up happening is the service is still beneficial to both of them, because the person who needs it most is getting the meals that they need. And then that takes the burden off of the other person from having to worry about, how do I cook for them? Using your example, if you've got one person with diabetes, one person with high blood pressure, the thing is, a person with diabetes also benefits from low sodium meals. So anything that we make that's low sodium is going to be great for both of them. And to be honest with you, even diabetic friendly meals, that's great for someone who's not a diabetic, because we don't want them to become diabetic. So it's always great to have more meals with complex carbohydrates, with whole grains, and with all of those things that are quote unquote people may perceive as, okay, that's what you eat if you are diabetic. No, actually, that's what you eat if you want to be healthy and if you don't want to develop diabetes later in life.
Great, great. Guys, this was amazing. I really thank you all so much for being here. This has been a really good conversation. Let's see if there's anything in the chat, and it doesn't look like there's anything new in the chat.